Hello, everybody. It's Kristan Kershaw here with my co-host, Suzanne Kullberg. And today we're both in a bit of a spicy mood. So we're going to jump straight into a bit of a different topic for the day. For those wanting to see a very amusing shot, you need to go to YouTube and watch the video. You get special insight and gestures. Today we're going to talk about ideal calendars and how much they can lead to a BS factor, because Suze and I have both had different things going on in our worlds on the day prior to recording this, which led us to this moment. But it's so funny. Suze is like, what do you think about talking about this? And I personally have had a bit of an experience in the last 24 hours about this very topic. So I'm like, well, wouldn't you know, let's go. So how many people listening to this podcast or watching us have made out an ideal calendar? So you're going to schedule yourself to the hilt, even if it's that you're going to put blocks in everywhere and go, here, I'm going to sit and read a book, or here, I'm going to take my kids to do this. But then you get to that day and you go, screw that, I'm too tired to go to take the kids to the park, or I've had a really bad day, I'm just not going to go there. And then how do you feel when that ideal calendar does not even remotely go your way, the way that you'd scheduled it? How does that let you process your capacity to do things? And, you know, how much of that undertone of I'm not good enough to even schedule myself, I'm not even good enough to create an ideal day, how can I function as an adult? Not that I've ever had that feeling at all.
I was going to say, that sounded oddly passionate.
It turns out that I've been trying to actually set up a new schedule for myself. And Susan and I were also talking about this before. For quite some time, my calendar is very complex because I do run two businesses. So I need to be scheduled. And both Susan and I have no problem with having times booked in for things like us to record these podcasts, or meetings within a team, or kids things, or whatever. Don't get us wrong. You do need to, because if you don't schedule anything, then the world is a schmozzle. And, you know, but I think if we paint the picture of an ideal day, an ideal week, I'm going to do this at this time, and I'm always going to get up and exercise, and I'm always going to drink 2 liters of water every day. And you put a lot of pressure on yourself. So I literally last night put together an ideal week type thing, essentially. But my calendar.
So funny, given I was like, let's talk about why ideal days are bullshit.
Yeah, I literally last night did this. And there are some things which are hard and fast, like there are set meeting times and things that I have commitments to, so they're easy to put in first. And I'd actually encourage, that's okay. Again, go for the things that are commitments for you, for work, for family, for your business, whatever. But then when I looked at all the other things, like I schedule in times when I'm most likely to go take my dogs for a walk, and where I have available yoga sessions, for instance. By the time I put the meetings or things that I'm committed to, and a couple of those things for like family or recreation, fitness, whatever, my week looked as bad or worse than it did last year. And I've done so many other things towards trying to lighten my load and simplify and whatever. And yeah, the frumpy me may have had a few moments at that point, and the iPad where I was putting it into a spreadsheet was set aside, and I just went, that's for tomorrow's self, or maybe next week's self. I'm not sure I'm ready to even address it today. Some other things that have been going on in my world. But how does that make me feel? Because I've tried to create a schedule to create openness and space, and it's just made me feel claustrophobic and horrible. So anyway, I'll shut up now, Suze, your turn.
The first thing that came to mind listening to you talk, and I don't know if you've seen this, and I'll find it and put it in the show notes, and I'm actually going to make a note so I remember to do this, people, because I know if I've ever promised anything and you're listening and you can't find it, feel free to send me email, info@suzannekolberg.com, because I say stuff and then I forget later. There is a skit, a scene of all these people in a yoga studio, and then there's like, I assume it's the Grinch, a dude in a green suit, and she's like, just breathe in and now breathe out your difficulties or whatever, and he just kind of screams, and everyone turns and looks. He's like, "Sorry, I'm a little messed up." Have you seen that?
It's got a vague familiarity, but it might have been a while since I've seen it. But that's kind of how I felt last night. And I went, okay, this is not coming together how I had planned. And maybe this is why I've been procrastinating it for a little while. There's another topic we can come back to, procrastination.
Oh,
it's sort of
yes.
Finally decided to try and take in all the information that I've gathered over the last however long and to put it together in one place. And it didn't come together quite how my brain pictured it might. And the thing is, I'm sure everyone must have felt that disappointment and that like I don't know, you frown upon yourself.
Self-flagellation too. Why can't I get my shit together? I said I was going to do this. I just must not want it enough, and so on and so forth. So the other thing that came to mind is I did a business course once, and one of the very early modules was the ideal day exercise. And not only did this course have the ideal day, it had the ideal work day, the ideal weekend day, the ideal holiday day. And I was just like, I resisted this topic, this module, like the resistance was strong. Because to me, the ideal day sets up what I call the extremist archetype, the all or nothing. Because, and I saw it in the group and on the coaching call, so many people who couldn't master their ideal day, so they were doing nothing. It's kind of like the diet mentality. I'm going to start the day, I'm only going to eat this stuff, and then by mid-afternoon, you're knee-deep in chips and Tim Tams going, oh, well, blown it now, start again tomorrow. So with your ideal day, if you don't follow it to the letter, then you think, throw the whole baby out with the bathwater and then I'll start again next week. And I'm not saying, as you said, we're not saying don't have any plans, just no holds barred. But there's a difference between blocking your time so strictly that the life is like and actually being realistic. Because I'm just thinking about today. So we're recording this. It's 2:00 my time. The things that I had planned to happen. And then, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm going to admit this. But anyway, Xanthi comes to me this morning. She tried to brush her hair with a comb and it got stuck in there. And she'd stayed up late and we'd all gone to bed. So this is when like I get up early and I actually do some work before the kids come awake. And anyway, I couldn't help her because I was laughing that hard. I'm sorry, but I'm that mum. So like then I had to stop laughing. I felt like, you know, when you're a kid, or maybe it was just me, and you go to the library and you have a cranky librarian, and the more cranky they are at you, the more you giggle. So then the more, you know, so it's just one of those moments. So when I eventually stopped laughing, like, don't worry, my child was safe. It was just maybe her hair potentially wasn't, and managed to cut out the comb, not the hair. We managed to save that. But I was like, there was 30 minutes that I had never or would never have planned for. Like, sorry, ideal day, kid getting comb stuck in hair, not planned. And then Casimir was like having his cereal and I didn't look at the date and poured the milk on there. He took a bite and he's like, oh, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, whoops, that was used by like, yeah. So the milk was off. So then I had to go to the shop to buy a new thing of milk. And, you know, this kind of happens and it's like suboptimal. So I think, you know, sometimes it's kind of like the reason I think the ideal day exercise is a load of bullshit is it never allows for external circumstances, you know, cars breaking down, people getting sick, kids having combs stuck in their hair, the milk being off. And the other thing is when you deviate from that plan, like especially some of them, they plan it down to the 15 minutes. Then you're, as soon as you're off, like which bit do you sacrifice? So in terms of how I do plan things, because yeah, I do plan things. You and I, we have a recording slot once a week. What we talk about in that slot is flexible and we actually have a whole list of topics we're going to get to. But then I was like, don't want to talk about any of those. But we're still committed to doing the recording. The same as when I sit down to write like articles, newsletters, things, I will write in that time. What I write about is open because, and this is what works for me. This is not a prescription. Like it's finding what works for you. But I think so many of us, we follow a blueprint or a planner or, you know, we follow someone else's thing, trying to get someone else's result. And we have different lifestyles, different circumstances. Like as we're recording this, you're in a different state and you were talking about how the weather is different, as in the sun goes down at a different time, the heat of the day is at a different time. So that would, I imagine, change when you would exercise, like when you would go for your walks and stuff.
Definitely.
And so if you're following someone's planner, especially you and I are both in Australia, I was chatting to someone this morning. She's like, what do you mean it's summer there? And I'm like, yeah. And it just never occurred to her. And it wasn't a judgment thing, but it was like, oh, because she's like, kids are back at school, everything's rolling. I'm like, well, our kids don't go back to school for weeks. And she's like, what do you mean? So it's like, we can't follow anyone's blueprint prescription planner. Different seasons, different times, different a number of kids and responsibilities and things they have going on, sports, swimming, Casimir sees therapists, like there's just, and then it's kind of like, no, all that's got to go to the side while I follow the
And we're setting ourselves up too for failure in that, and I don't like using the word failure because you've not failed anything. You've just had another experience, which leads you to either choose to learn from that or to end up feeling down on yourself from it, which can then lead to a very steep spiral. But things like my teenagers are going to a course next week, and one of them I know she's doing photography, so she only needs to take her camera, and her brother has sent me a shopping list. He's doing a jewelry making course. Where do we get that? Like, they've listed a name of something, and I said, you need to go and find out if they're going to supply that and we just need to pay, or if we're meant to pre-order this or whatever. Like, if I get too highly scheduled, I don't have the bandwidth. You've just put more pressure on yourself to when am I going to deal with that? When am I going to address that? It's actually particularly difficult because I'm in a different state from him right now. And he is with his dad, who could equally assist him, but I'm the one getting the text messages. So we need to allow, in whatever we're doing, for that grace of, if you too much use someone else's planner, just like what you were saying, Suze, and it's not congruent with where you're at, where are you leaving time to give yourself a breather? Because I'm already feeling like I've got more time on my hands than normal while I'm away because I'm not looking after little people as I normally would be, or feeding them or whatever else. I just have to feed myself. But I still have a lot of other work that I'm doing, and I'm further away from home. So there's other compounding factors, which makes it actually not very easy for me to solve that situation. So if I was, and I am absolutely one that schedules herself to within an inch of my life at times, unfortunately, and it's a lesson I'm working on, hence, oh, the irony here, hence why I'm trying to do this revisit of my calendar, because I have been known to go from 8 a.m. until 6 to 8 p.m. and have long enough to go to the toilet and maybe grab food if it's ready cooked. And that's it, because I schedule myself. And if one thing runs late, and this is a whole different topic of boundaries,
maybe that'll be next week.
Here we've been talking about something about boundaries, or there's a workshop or masterclass, coming about that. But if for some reason there's a delay within it, then it bumps into the next thing. Even if you've left a 15-minute gap, maybe that was your run up and down the stairs 2 times time to get a bit of exercise in, or whatever.
I've got to jump in there. But how often we do leave a 15-minute gap for stretching, walking, water, peeing, eating, preparing, that's what gets missed. Our time for us. And then, as you said, we're sitting at the computer from 8 till 8, eating whatever's convenient. And we all do it. And the other thing you touched on that I just had to sit on my hands so I didn't interfere, but I was just so passionate about, is you were talking about failure. And I really and I think this is what gets my goat about the ideal day being bullshit, because as soon as we miss it, we feel like a failure. And what I really want to highlight for people is that failing to keep up with your ideal day has nothing to do with your worth as a human being. And absolutely. I think, when we feel like a failure, it's like, I am a failure because I couldn't do this. Instead, the activity was a failure. Like this plan that I had, the plan failed. It didn't bring the result that I hoped for. What can I do instead? What other activities can I try? I'm still amazing. I'm still awesome. Yep. I'm not a failure. It just failed to produce the result. And I think when we really, like Brene Brown talks about the difference between guilt and shame. as in like guilt would be, you know, I feel guilty. Like I feel kind of guilty for laughing at my daughter this morning about the hairbrush thing. But, you know, shame is I am a terrible mother. It's like I felt in the moment like that wasn't a, you know, I feel like a terrible mother, but I'm not a terrible mother. I'm a freaking awesome mother who had a moment. So the same with if your calendar, if your ideal day isn't going to how you thought, you are not a failure. The plan isn't working for you. Try another plan. Instead of going, and I think that's the thing, we keep, like when I did that course, I kept forcing myself back to, I've just got to get this right. I have to get this right, rather than this isn't in service to me. I am always right. Not as in, my husband would love to hear that, but as in whole and worthy and as a human being. But the things I'm trying aren't necessarily yielding the results that I'm after. And that's what needs tweaking, not me as a person.
Absolutely. And just to build on that again, and the direction I was generally headed is, if you schedule really tightly, again, I will walk the dog from this time to this time, and I will go to like school drop off. What if someone at school drop off or pickup bumps into you and you genuinely want to chat to them, but you're sitting there watching, you're looking at your watch going, I've really got to be here because and, you know, genuinely that's going to sometimes be the case where you just have to say, sorry, I've got another commitment, I have to go. But wouldn't it be amazing to have space to be able to flex that? But what often happens is the social things that we want to do, the things for ourselves that we want to do, or whatever, everyone else is a priority. The business, the children, the work, the whatever. But the going for a walk, or the just doing some meditative breathing, or going to a shop that you want to go to by yourself when there is no one else there so that you can go and enjoy it, or do an activity by yourself that you want to do. That's going to suffer if you get sucked into the ideal day factor and feel that you have to go to that mold and then something's not working. Human nature, and especially for women, overgivers, we've talked about that before as well, we're going to put everybody else first by default for the most part, as in we can make different choices, but I think when you're under pressure, most of us will default to that. So,
yes,
or
I think it's we've been conditioned that way too. Society and you know, it's been, you know, rewarded in the media, or, you know, people look to, and it's like, actually, I don't want to teach my children that. I want to teach my children that, you know, self first isn't selfish. And sometimes we are tired or we are overcommitted. And the things that we want to be looking at our plan, it's like, actually, maybe it's one of these commitments that needs to cut down, not the commitment to self. Because the more we cut out our walks, our stretches, our, you know, time for self, the more likely we are to burn out or get sick. And then, I don't know about you, but I always had this thought that I held close to my heart. I never shared it. But the number of clients who shared this with me, and I was like, I think there's so many of us, be like, I want to get, this is pre-COVID days, but imagine getting sick so you can go to hospital, like not sick enough that you're like on death's door or anything, but just sick enough that you can, you know, lie in bed, read a book, have food brought to you, you know, like that kind of thing. And it's like, what kind of world do we live in where we only give ourselves pause when we're that unwell? And it's interesting enough. So we had COVID go through our house again recently. Kristan knows about this. And both my children got it. I did not, but I was really tired. And what I found interesting was I kept doing the test each day. And it was like, so when/if this tests positive, then I can have a nap, break, pause. But it's like, Suze, what are you doing? You are tired. You're caring for two people who are unwell. You've got a lot on. Your body's saying it's tired. It doesn't need a tick in a box on a stick stuck up your nose to say, hey, woman, slow down. Yep. And I just found that really, really fascinating, that it was like, if, you know, I'm allowed. If you're sick, you're allowed. And it's like, says who? So I was actually, I did cancel a few things. And I said to people, look, I've overcommitted. And that was it. And if the thing is, a lot of us fear our clients will cancel or whatever, every single person who I was just honest with actually said, I really admire that. Like, I wish I could do that. And I was like, we can, by we going first. And if somebody's like, I'm never going to work with you, because there's a difference between being flaky and doing it repeatedly or not giving notice or whatever, but actually saying, looking at my week, I've overcommitted. going to have to reschedule. Here's what I have available. What works for you? Most people, and it's funny, the number of people who are like, oh, thank goodness, because I had heaps on too. Nobody, not one person was up in arms. And if they were, I totally would have been open to discussing that. But I think so often we don't say anything because we don't want to let the other person down. The other person doesn't say anything, and it ends up in this big messy soup. And the first person to say, actually, like what we were going to talk about today, neither of us were feeling passionate about that today, and we ended up on this topic. So I think speaking your truth and saying what's, you're available and what you have capacity for frees others to do the same.
Absolutely. So in the vein of what we've been talking about, and you highlighted your mug, and for those on the video, I'm going to highlight my shirt. So this shirt I acquired in 2011 in Sarasota in the US, and it actually smelled like chocolate for ages afterwards. It's stained with a cacao thing.
Oh, if anyone listening and not watching, should we tell them what it says?
Yeah, I suppose.
It says, "Will sell husband for chocolate."
We'll swap. Swap.
It says sell.
Oh, there we go. We'll sell. I always had it in my head.
There you go. That's a third entrepreneur business for you.
And just side note, my husband is pretty amazing, and I've been away for, I don't know how many days. In total, I will be away for 9 days, where I've left him with 2 of the kids and to do stuff at home. He's helped my mother, which is not an insignificant thing. He's been building stuff, and there's a complex situation. My mum's in good health, but there's some other stuff going on there. So he spent 1 day there, and right now he's actually helping his family with some stuff. And all of this involves an hour plus drive each direction to do. So he's pretty smashing of a guy. So I'm only saying that I'll sell him jokingly.
Yeah,
but
we do heavy work in a lighthearted way, people. So yes, I think
please don't take that seriously. Scott, it's amazing. But all that said and done, the undertone of this is, please don't schedule yourself and feel down on yourself. Like, if you really do want to work on having a schedule, having a calendar, having a daily kind of thing to go off, that's okay. There's no shame in having something there. But be mindful of what your capacity is at that point to do things. The other thing to be mindful of is if you underschedule it and you go, right, well, I've got this solid appointment, and I'm just going to leave this open to whatever will be there. It can be a really big trap to not have, say, a list of a few things that you'd like to tick off or something, because unless it's designed to be kick back and watch Netflix or whatever, just be mindful that at the end of the day, if you leave it too open, you might be kicking yourself that you got nothing done, and then the negative spiral can be just as much a weapon against yourself. Whereas if you have a list of a couple of things that you'd like to do in, okay, I have free time, and I use free very loosely because it may be, time to do domestic things or whatever. Have something that you can, without having to think, go, that's right, that's my reminder of what I actually want to use this time for. Because the pull to look at Facebook or look at emails or do some other procrastinating type task, and then at the end of the day to still feel like crap, that's another flip side that can happen. And again, very much firsthand have experienced that one at different times.
I love that. And what would you suggest? Because I'll start with mine and you can add yours in, for people who do want to schedule. So like the way I schedule is I look at the things I need to get done on, like, this needs to be done monthly, this needs to be done weekly, and this needs to be done daily, like broad things.
Yep.
And then I tend to do what habit stacking. So put it onto something else so that I remember, like, when I do this, I do this.
Yep.
And then I reevaluate, probably once a quarter, like, is this still in service? Because how many things do we still do just because we've always done them, but aren't actually serving you or don't actually take you any closer to your goals? And then I love how you said, like, you said something about scheduling Netflix time. So yesterday I'd scheduled my Yellowstone time and I sat down and I was like, oh, ready? And I was like, what? A new episode isn't here? I checked the time. I was like, it's 8 p.m. Eastern. And, it should be here. And then I was like, oh, we're a mid-season break. It's like, oh, how dare they have mid-season break? I was like, I have to find another show. But like, as in, I also, the very first thing I schedule is my downtime, rest, read, walk, like is the me stuff. And I guard that more than anything else. I used to always guard the client time and the kid time and everything else. and I was ridiculously cranky on the whole. So if something's going to be dropped now or let go of, it's not my me time, because when I am there for me first, then I have so much more to give to others. And even the children, it's funny, we had a really long lockdown last year, and I remember the kids looking at each other on more than one occasion. It's like, Mummy needs to go to the gym, because they know that when I, go for a walk or do my yoga or do something outside of the house, then I'm so much more available to them than when I'm always being there present, but like on my phone or something like that.
Yep. And the scroll factor and the procrastinate scroll, email, whatever.
Compare and despair, looking at everybody on the internet who's posting all happy photos and going, why isn't my life like that?
Oh, little side note. If you think that everybody is truly scheduled and really happy being really scheduled, be very mindful that comparisonitis and keeping up appearances are really a thing. There could be someone who you respect a lot and who has a lot on, and people ringing me, and they apparently I need to put do not disturb on, and I didn't realize. And they don't have their shit together any better than you do, but it can seem like they're better scheduled or seem like they're whatever. So please stay in your own lane, do what works for you, be curious, try different things. For me, as far as you asked, Suze, what I would do, as far as if you want to schedule, what does that look like? So for me, that is actually going in and putting in the things that they're immobile, so to speak, whether that's work, whether that's family, whatever. So for me, the immobile things are yoga for me on a Monday and a Wednesday. They are certain days where my youngest, I need to get her to school because we share that one day a week. My husband does it. The rest I generally do, but there are different, sometimes I have to get her there earlier and that sort of stuff. So that doesn't change. So that needs to go in. And then as of this year, there's a set work meeting at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, local Queensland time when I'm at home. So that's set. And so they're the big blocks. Think of them as the big chunks. And that's kind of like what you were saying, right? The personal for you, the you time is one of those. This needs to be somewhere, and I'm going to find where it goes.
And my Casimire's appointments would be another one. My client calls would be another one. And one-on-one time with each of my children, because that became, and then the thing is, I think just for anyone listening, sometimes these things aren't identified until they're missing. So last year, Casimir was diagnosed with autism. So that was a big journey. And then I didn't realize how much I was expecting Xanthi just to bear the load. And then I was like, she was actually missing some pure one-on-one time with each of my children to do whatever, read a book, play Mario Kart, jump on the trampoline, try create something. We made Big Ben the other day. Have I showed you a picture of that yet? Casimir and I created a Big Ben out of cardboard. But just things like that, because the other things, the work, what are you doing it for? Especially as entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs, the only people I know who quit a 9-to-5 to work 24/7.
Yep, exactly. And then before you do anything else, look at it. Is that realistic? Is it really going to take you 15 minutes to drop them at school, pick up milk at the shop and get home? Or is
15
it
minutes? Where do you live? Are you across the road from the school? Because I think sometimes we underestimate tasks like that, which take a lot longer, but then we overestimate things like a newsletter. I remember working with a client once. It used to take me all day to write a newsletter. Now I do it in 25 minutes, written, edited, scheduled, posted. That's why there's often typos and stuff. But if you follow me, then that's perfection not required. But I love how you point out realistic timings for these things.
Yeah, and look at it where it is and go. So I use that for an example because it's literally 3 minutes drive to my school from home. But if we're walking to school, which we got into a pretty good routine of last year on, say, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings especially, then that needs a whole lot longer. I need 50 minutes at least, really an hour. But again, the minimum I need is 50 minutes, but to allow me to get a drink, get changed, or turn up in a meeting red-faced, which I've been known to do.
Well, that's something, like sweaty. And the other thing too, I love water aerobics, swimming, pool, but there's the class length, 50 minutes, plus the shower, plus the time to get into the swimwear. So it's kind of like what, realistic things. And as you said, going to the shop to pick up milk might be 10, 15 minutes, but what if there's a queue, or what if there's traffic, or what if,
you bump into someone and you end up speaking to them, or there's another shop and you go, oh, I really need to actually go in there too, something that you'd forgotten, and you get,
or you go to Kmart to buy one thing and end up with 6.
That would never happen at Kmart. What, you lie,
Well,
Suzanne.
apparently the US doesn't have Kmart anymore. So if any of our US listeners, because I posted this picture of something I bought for my husband at Kmart when I was buying something else, and they're like, you still have Kmart? I'm like, oh yeah. But like, and then not beating yourself up, because then you're like, well, I shouldn't be doing these things. I should always be working. And it's like, I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying, faff off on your responsibilities, but what are you doing it for? Where is your downtime?
Yeah. And then once you've done that bit of a check, that's when you can start to filter in a few of the other things. Are there any, hey, I'd really like to actually do that. So for me, I would like to schedule in a bit more gardening time during the week to break up my day, so I can spend 15 minutes outside getting fresh air, checking on seeds, giving a quick water. They don't have to be big times, but it's completely different environment sitting in front of a screen. And I know that 15 minutes there, but I really need to allow half an hour, again, using the technique we were just talking about, to extricate myself from my office, maybe go to the toilet, grab a drink, something like that. I'll allow for food breaks and stuff within my planning, but it's almost like I need a bit of extra time for that extrication process, to find a pair of shoes if I haven't had the need for shoes, to get distracted by the dogs while I'm out there.
Find the watering can, or the trail, or the dirt, or the, the gloves.
Whatever the bits are.
I think that's really important too. And the other thing for gardening, for me, it's stretching. So I have chronic back pain, which will be an episode at some stage. But I've really realized I need more time away from the computer to stretch. So it's kind of like space. So I need space to, get on the floor to be able to do the stretches and, actually dedicate that time. Because that's one of the things, the garden, the stretching, the you things, be like, oh, I'll just push through to this next call, especially if calls go over. Yeah. And, sacrificing your time. So the other thing I want to say, because I don't know how long we've been talking for, we're going to wrap it up soon, is you can't just listen to this. This is something that you have to live. So whether you work with Kristan or one of her consultants on the Supporting Balance team, I know you guys have your 15-minute calls there. Whether you work, this is something we can do in Why Wait. But the reason that I think ideal day planning stuff is bullshit is we sit together in a group, or we do a course and we map this thing out, and then we go and live our day, which looks nothing like that, and then cry in the corner of shame. Whereas when you work with either of us, whether it be Supporting Balance team, Kristan, myself, we'll be like, okay, cool. So what actually happened? No judgment, no shame, no shade. And then let's tweak. Because the other thing I think we do is we cut our foundations all the time. We're like, okay, so it wasn't that, it was this. I don't know about you, but I had this stack one time of all these different planners. I had the success planner, the high performance planner, the Leonie Dawson planner. I was like planner central. And it was like, there's an underlying theme here, as in I'm the one who has to do the planner. So that's the thing that you bring to your coach, to your support team, to work through what's happening with it, rather than just going on to the next perfect, pretty looking thing that you, once again, don't follow through with.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Suze does a lot of mindset work and works with you along this vein. And even though I work in the area of minerals and vitamins and nutrients, a huge part of the ability to focus, the ability to plan and stick with things and whatever, we can be really down on ourselves because, oh, I'm just no good at that, and whatever. The negative self-talk can be significant. Even if you're not aware of that negative self-talk, our minerals and our nutrient situation and our food and whatever, that impacts on our ability when it comes to this sort of stuff. Could I always schedule like this? Could I? And if you're new to this sort of thing, this is another little, be gentle on yourself. Suze and I have been doing this stuff for a long time. We've experimented. We've done plenty of things that haven't worked optimally. And we've done plenty of things that we've gone, hey, this works for me. What works for me, what works for Suzanne, they're not necessarily going to work for you. But these are things that you can experiment into and be curious on, so that you find you. But if you get your minerals on on the right track and on a more optimal plane, if you get your mindset on a more optimal plane, things like what we've talked about today are going to become more achievable. And you know what? Even if you can just have a basic family calendar that shows when your family commitments are, that might do exactly what you need. It doesn't have to be anything fancier.
We have that on our fridge, and which child has which chore. And then at the end of last year, Casimir, as a joke, crossed out the kids' names and wrote Jeremy's and I's, and it was a bit of fun. But at the beginning of this year with our brand new yearly calendar, I was like, that was fun. That is not happening again. But basically, this person does this, and, you know, overview, eagle's eye, big picture thing. And then once you get that system rolling, add in the next one. Because I think the other thing too, that why I think ideal days are bullshit, is we go from tends to be chaos to perfection, and doesn't allow any, you know, like when you put on a new pair of shoes. If you went on a new pair of shoes and decided to run a marathon, like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you know what I mean. If you go bushwalking or go for a giant hike, you're going to get blisters. So if you've got no level of organization and suddenly think that you're going to have this level of dedication that you've never once displayed in your entire life, it's slow and steady and adding things in, and whether they be, you know, minerals or activities, how does it feel? Because that's the other thing too. If you're currently got terrible brain fog, I said frog, really tired,
Read it.
you know, then these things that to other people seem really easy are monumental. They feel like climbing a mountain, because your baseline is different than a baseline when you're more well. I don't you know how to say that. I don't mean to sound judgy,
More
but
optimal.
you know, more optimal. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've covered a lot of different things. If you've listened to this or watched us, look, both of us, English not working optimally today.
You can tell we've reached operational limit when we start making up our own language.
If you've got a question, drop us a line. The links are in the show notes, in the, you know, description of however you're accessing this. And hey, we're here to, I guess, bounce ideas off. If we need to do a part 2 to this topic because we get lots of discussion around this, well, we can.
We're totally open to that. And if you've something that you are wanting to schedule, hashtag non-ideal day, I encourage you to, you know, share it up, tag us in it. What's the thing that you're going to start? One thing. It could be, okay, I'm going to take the yucky juice. That's an episode that's going to be coming up soon, once a day. Or I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to take a break, like a break away from my computer and do some stretches. I'm going to action, because you can listen and listen and listen and get so frustrated that nothing's changing in your life and go, oh, I know all this. Knowing to know and not to do is not to know.
Yep, totally. Awesome. Well, thank you, Suze, for both of us jumping on, really. I'm going to thank myself, because there was a bit of spiciness. Both of us were pretty feisty when we first jumped on the call, and I think we've calmed slightly and covered a very important topic.
On that note, we'll do the Snoop Dogg. I'd like to thank me.
Me.
Bye, everyone.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.